if you're watching this and what I just said terrified you, that's something you need to look at yourself about, because there's literally nothing that anyone can say, anything that would terrify me, because I know what this all is. I'm very connected, and so I would suggest you do that work, because if you've done the work, the self work, and especially the shadow work, you will realize that there's never anything to fear whatsoever.
Hello, welcome to the Mark Atwood Show, Adventures in a Cosmic Suit. How are you doing today? It is currently Wednesday, the 15th of October. Last Friday, a massive thing happened in the crypto markets. Don't switch off if you're not interested. You should be, because it's all part of what's going on. But the question is it the Great Reset, the Great Awakening? Who's in charge? What's really going on? Well, over the last, 20 years or so, one man I followed for a very long time is Jeff Berwick. He's the founder of the Dollar Vigilante, the incredible annual events in Mexico called Anarchapulco. And I'm very pleased to say he's here with me today to discuss all of this and what's going on. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Mark. My great-grandma would be very happy how you pronounce my last name, Berwick. That's what she always told me how it should be pronounced.
Thank God for that. I normally get it wrong.
Well, she'd be very happy.
Well, I'm pleased to hear it. It's good to get the approval of our ancestors. We kind of need them at the moment. Where was she from?
Scotland. I really she was 90. She was in this home, pretty bad health. I really regret now not talking to her more about what she knew, because especially as I've been learning over the last few decades about the history of everything, it would have been so interesting to hear where she came from and what her parents saw and what her grandparents saw. But unfortunately, I didn't ask any of those questions, and I wish I did.
I was actually thinking about my great-great-grandfather this morning, thinking exactly the same thing, because it's almost impossible to think that they didn't know stuff. But I found with my grandparents that they were so terrified that they had been so terrified in their life that they kind of stayed in a very small circle geographically, intellectually. And if I spoke to them about any of the stuff that was going on in the world back even before they died, they just sort of blanked me and then carry on talking. And I looking back on it, I think they had PTSD.
That's interesting you say that, because that's kind of what I saw with my great grandma. To me, she seemed like very traumatized. But I never could. I was like 5, 7, 8 years old. I didn't think to ask why or what happened, but it seemed like she had gone through something really tough. But I never found out why. I don't know if she came from those Cabbage Patch orphan sort of things when they did the reset or something. I don't know. I wish I asked. It's one of those things. I just wish I had, but I didn't. And now all that information's gone, right? Because so much of the information that we are told is not true. So it's just sad to me that I never got the opportunity to ask her.
No, I completely concur with that. My own grandmother on my mother's side was taken out of Ireland in 1916-18 as a baby and dumped in London, and nobody would talk about it. Nobody will even admit that she was Irish. There wouldn't even 11 children, one of which was my mum. None of them would even admit it, because she married an Englishman who got disowned by his family for marrying an Irish woman. And it's like, wow, that's talk about mind control, even within the families.
And that's interesting too, because that's what I was saying. So that person just got dumped in an orphanage, right? That's the stuff that I keep hearing more and more, is that a lot of people were in orphanages back then. It doesn't really make any sense. Why were there all these orphans? And I guess if a lot of them had come from some sort of bizarre strange reset event where they were like just created or something and dropped in a place. I guess they wouldn't really know anything either, though. All they would know is that they were an orphan, and that's all they would know. So it's pretty incredible. We just don't know what really happened back then.
Well, it's like all of our, we all grew up with a certain idea of what history was, and physics and chemistry and biology and all of this, because it was programmed into us. And I talk about, I was brainwashed as a kid, and I ended up joining the RAF when I was a young man, until I realized there was a problem when I met Prince Philip, and I was like, oh, there's a problem here, right? Because he didn't recognize I got an award at St. James's Palace when I was 19. He didn't recognize my uniform, and he was made commandant of the RAF in 1958. And I was looking at him as a 19-year-old going, how do you not recognize this uniform? This is something wrong here. That's where it started with me. But I think I first latched onto you because I was, you set up a website in the early days of the .com times, as did I. And I went on to build an online business. And when I read your story initially about how that's, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was like an investment site, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a financial website called stockhouse.com that I started in Canada, but went to about 7 different countries and grew quite large before the tech bubble burst.
Yeah, and I latched onto that story because I got decimated in 2009-10 by that crash, and then that's when I'd already studied economics for 5 years. I'd already heard of G. Edward Griffin's book, but not read it. And then I read it, and then I got involved with the solicitors, and then I learned how corrupt they were in the banks and everything. And I really went deep into it. And I think that's when I first came across you and the Dollar Vigilante, because you were talking about the coming crash, and there were a few interesting people around at the time. But you really sort of crystallized all that with Anarchapulco and the crypto vigilante. And, I got involved in crypto, worked in the crypto market for a bit. When I say in the market, I was in London working on a real estate coin in 2017 that went nowhere. But I saw that was fascinating because the amount of money that was when Bitcoin first went to 1,000, 10,000. And I met a few interesting people like John Matonis, and who said to me in a pub one day he had more money than God. And I was like, and he didn't know what to do with it. And I was, this is crazy. But you've always been consistent and helped people to see this coming. And then last Friday, it was 2 days after you'd posted a video that was, prophetic, but it was huge. Did you see it coming that quickly, the way it happened?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. So that crypto crash happened last Friday. So just like, I don't know what day it is today, Wednesday or something. So like 5 days ago. So that week on Monday, I was actually meditating in my Tesla plasma bath, and it all kind of like rushed into me. This is what happens to me a lot when I get into like meditative states. I get all this information. But it's not like super clear, but it was very clear to me. Like I actually like almost lunged out of my plasma bath, gasping, going, I've got to warn people, something big's coming. But I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was coming like right away. I knew I had to get out and at least tell people about it. And most people aren't going to listen anyway. I used to think, I have to go and really make sure I try to help as many people as possible. Now I still do it, but I just know that it's probably not going to help many people anyway. They're just not going to listen. But I lunged out of the bath, and I'm like, I've got to do something. I know something big's coming. I just don't know what it is. And it's like something in the financial markets. And I've been expecting that anyway. So I was like, oh man, it's here. So I actually rushed and put out a pretty big video with like urgent warning on it. And we're right at like, it's about to happen. Something's about to happen. It's about to begin. That's all I really knew. I didn't know if it was be crypto. I didn't know if it was going to be the stock market. I didn't know what it was. So I put that video out, and then right after that, I put out another video. I was like, man, I've got to put out like a bit more on this stuff. So I put out another video called The Collapse, and I said it's coming. And by the time I actually put that video live, like I think within an hour or two, that crypto collapse happened on Friday, which was Really interesting, really crazy, because I've been in the crypto market since 2011. So I've seen so many things. I've actually seen Bitcoin go to zero before, after I recommended it at $3 on Mt. Gox, when Mt. Gox kind of collapsed. I've seen so many things, Luna, Terra Luna crashed, which actually made like over $1 million on. I actually bought it at the very bottom after it had crashed at 0.00000. I'm not making these numbers up, 0.01 cents, because it was auto selling at the time. And that's what actually caused the crash. But we knew that was probably going to happen. So when it did happen, I took advantage of that. And I was there for obviously FTX. That was a crazy crash. But actually, nothing was crazier in terms of the speed and the amount that we saw on Friday. And of course, it came out right after. Actually, I've actually been digging into it more since then, because I still don't know exactly what happened. But at exactly 4:00 p.m. Eastern time, which is the exact time that the stock markets closed, like that exact time, that's the timestamp when Donald Trump posted that he's going to put 100% tariffs on China and stuff, which he's been saying stuff like that off and on all year. So that shouldn't have caused a massive crash. But in the aftermarket of the stock market started to go down about 3%, which is pretty big for the stock market. And then all of a sudden, and we know this now, that there was a bunch of $100 million like massive shorts put onto the crypto markets, like just minutes before Donald Trump sent out that tweet, and all the selling came in, and the crypto markets just got slammed. Bitcoin had its biggest down 1 hour candle in its history. It was down $20,000. So it had a $20,000 down candle. But that was like nothing compared to the altcoins, the other cryptocurrencies. There was things, some of them went down like 99.5%. Many of them were down 80%. Sui went from $4 to 50 cents in like 10 seconds. and so many things like that happened. And so many people who were leveraged long on a lot of those cryptos got absolutely wiped out. And of course, that's, these markets at least, fairly well. So, it's crazy to have your entire net worth on one crypto exchange, long with leverage, even if it's 2x on any crypto coin, much less Bitcoin. And like a lot of these, could drop substantially if anything happens. But you saw a lot of people, they had like $30 million, their entire net worth on one coin leveraged, and they just got wiped out in a matter of seconds. So there was actually even a Ukrainian crypto person who's quite well known, who actually managed funds for other people as well. He got completely wiped out. And I don't mean to make this sound like mean or anything, but he kind of like completed the entire crypto investor life cycle, because he went from zero, he went up to 30 million, and he lost it all in a few seconds, and he ended up shooting himself in the head, they say, in his Lamborghini, which you just have to kind of notice how crazy all this stuff is. But then the crazier thing is that on Sunday, before the stock markets opened, Trump's regime sent out a tweet, and it was like a high school boy. He was like, haha, just kidding. We're all good. I'm friends with Z of China and all this sort of stuff. And the stock markets opened up. And by the time the crypto markets saw that tweet, a lot of the cryptos, they weren't back to where they were, but they were up quite a bit from their bottoms at that point. And it was like almost nothing happened, except we found out, and actually one of the traders that actually shorted massively the crypto market, it went really viral online, which I always pay attention to, because if things go viral, it's usually for a reason. And it showed that one trader made $80 million in like a few seconds after he shorted just before the tweet went out. And here's something very interesting. The very next day, Forbes put out that Barron Trump has made over $80 million in crypto, which I think is them basically just laughing, saying, yeah, they did that. They made probably billions of dollars from it. And it was just, for fun to make some money, because they knew they could. They've got the power of Donald Trump's tweets. They've got things like BlackRock all in the crypto market now, Wall Street. They probably all coordinated to sell all at that one time to cause this cascading crash of leverage. So yeah, very interesting. And as far as how it plays into everything else, I think this is just a warning shot of what's about to come. So I don't think this is the big event that I was kind of seeing. Like it might be the kind of beginning of it, but we've got way bigger ones coming, in my opinion.
Well, you've been talking about the crash of the American economy. I mean, a lot of people watching this know that that was always a plan. And what's interesting is that, you know, some people are welded to certain ideas and about the outcome of all of this. And well, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because I know that you've spent so many years digging into this that I have to listen to you because I just respect what you've done so much. Do you want to explain to my audience, some of which may be thinking might not even be interested in crypto, but the thing is, what's happening in the crypto markets, what's happening with money worldwide, and the geopolitics is going to affect everybody. So could you just give a little bit of more context in terms of your journey in order to why you set up the Dollar Vigilante? Because I know we've touched on it, but a little bit deeper, what that message is and what you've been, because you have been helping a lot of people to protect themselves from this coming event that you knew was coming for a very long time.
Yeah, so just like you, in 2001, my company basically collapsed after the tech bubble collapsed, and I had no idea why, but my partner tried to actually kill himself right after, and when he got out of the hospital, he jumped out of an 8-story building and landed in a small fountain. Broke all the bones in his legs and stuff. And he came to my apartment on crutches and he handed me G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. And my company had just collapsed. And I read that book. It's like a phone book. I read it in about 3 days. And I was like, why didn't anyone tell me this is how the system works? The central banks, it's all basically kind of like a scam in many ways. So then I kind of went on. I tried to travel the world. I bought a sailboat. I actually sank it 1 year to the day after I bought it in El Salvador. And I traveled by backpack to about 100 different countries, just trying to figure out what's going on in this world. And along the way, I started to learn about Austrian economics and libertarianism, anarcho-capitalism. And I thought that was incredible information that hardly anyone knew. But because I learned about the Austrian economics, as I was traveling, I think I was in Thailand at the time, the 2007, 2008 massive collapse happened. And I was expecting that to happen. I was actually in contact with a person who has become my partner at the Dollar Vigilante, Ed Bugos. At the time, we were on like a Yahoo Finance Austrian economics chat board with a lot of the smartest Austrian economic people on it. And everyone was expecting that crash. So I was watching that and going, well, I'm going to watch this. And if they're right, then I'm going to know that I have information here that most people don't have, because most people were completely caught by surprise by that. So once it did crash in 2008, I said to Ed, I said, do you want to start a financial newsletter where we tell people about how all this works? And how basically the entire system is going to collapse at some point, and fairly soon. We started in 2010. I said probably by the end of the decade, which was kind of interesting because really the beginning of this collapse that we're currently in, that most people still can't see, started in February of 2020 when they announced the COVID's program, the operation. Markets crashed at that time. And to me, that's actually kind of like the beginning of the end here. Of course, the central banks went and printed up trillions and trillions of currency units after that. They actually more than doubled the money supply of the US, the Federal Reserve. So that was kind of like the beginning of the end, in my opinion. But so, yeah, we've been talking about this since 2010. We've been mostly into things like gold and silver, which are both at all-time highs right now. Gold's been skyrocketing lately, which is actually a signal to me that this system's on the verge of collapse. We're headed towards some sort of a crisis. We've also got into Bitcoin at $3 in 2011. So we've done incredibly well since we started the Dollar Vigilante, because our tagline is actually surviving and prospering during and after the dollar collapse. And so we've been prospering all the way along by taking investments into things that are basically anti-dollar, like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And we're basically preparing to survive what's going to be coming right now. So that's the sort of genesis of how this is all played out so far to date. And yeah, we're very, very close, in my opinion, to a massive crisis, massive collapse. The stock markets are more overvalued than they've ever been in history. Almost every metric is off the charts. Almost everything's at all-time highs right now, which is very telling. That basically this is starting to get close to a hyperinflationary sort of a collapse. It's not quite there yet, but we're seeing all these sort of signs and symptoms of something big coming. And I think, again, gold is the biggest warning signal of that. It's been skyrocketing. Like, it looks like a cryptocurrency over the last few months. It's just like moving up hundreds of dollars a day lately. And that to me is a sign of what's about to come. So this is stuff that we've been talking about in our newsletter for a while. People are prepared for it. We've actually been telling people to take profits on their crypto over the last month or so. So we timed that one again incredibly well before that latest crypto crash. And I think there's much more to come. I would suggest people get our newsletters if you really want to know where things are going, because we've got the best team. We've timed the bottoms and the tops on things like Bitcoin since 2011 incredibly well, and I think we're going to do it again. And just, you know, a bit of free information to people is we think we're very close to the top of the crypto market right now. We could have actually hit it on October 6th, which was this all-time high of about 126,000. But it could actually have one more leg. We're not sure at this moment in time. We're watching it like by the minute right now. It's that close. But people should be aware that is going to be happening at some point quite soon. And they should probably get our newsletters if they really want to know what's happening.
Where do they get that from, Jeff?
You can get the Dollar Vigilante newsletter at dollarvigilante.com. If you're really interested in the crypto part of it, just go to cryptovigilante.io. Sign up for the newsletter there, and that actually includes the Dollar Vigilante newsletter in it. And so those two newsletters will keep you totally up to date. The Crypto Vigilante actually does almost daily videos for subscribers, showing where things are at, looking at all the numbers, trying to gauge where we're at in this market and what we should be doing. But definitely caution should be very warranted at this moment in time. The question is, where do you even go? Where do you even hide if everything's about to collapse? And that's actually why I talk a lot about doing the self-work, the physical, mental, and spiritual work, because I think that's what's going to be necessary to get through the next few years. I think we're going to go through such a massive change in our lives, in the world, in the next 1 or 2 years, that most people won't even be able to handle it. And that includes things too, like just even AI, which at the speed it's growing, more than half of the people in the world will probably lose their current jobs in the next couple of years. And that's not including the crash that's coming, which is going to wipe most people out. So this is going to be a very difficult time for most people. And that's why you need to be doing the physical. You got to make sure your physical is good. If your physical is not good, you don't have anything inside this matrix. And by doing the physical, you can get a lot clearer, and then you can do the mental, which you can do with things like meditation. You can also do things like hypnotherapy, and you can even use things like psychedelics to kind of like to get really deep into your psyche, to figure out all your traumas and all your programs, and then get those sorted out. And then you can connect on a spiritual level, because you'd be cleaned out physically and mentally. So then you can really connect. And I would suggest just meditation every day. That sort of a thing to connect. And that's where a lot of the stuff to me comes from now. Like even the crash last week, it just came to me because I was just meditating in a plasma bath, which is incredible, by the way. And it just came to me, and that's the kind of thing. And I should also mention that no matter what happens, if everything gets wiped out, we go Mad Max or whatever, I've actually been preparing for that. I've got a ranch in Mexico. I've got a blue roof on it for the energy weapons. I've got greenhouses getting ready for like the plagues and all that kind of stuff. It's very protected from a lot of the signals and stuff, which they'll be using. But even if that happens, I'll be generally fine, because I know what this is, because I've done the spiritual work so much now that I just know this is all an experience created just for us. And it's the most amazing experience ever. and even if you lose, like if I lost like everything, I'd still be generally okay, because I know that nothing in this life, like material items or anything, means nothing. And obviously you can't take it with you anyway. And I think a lot of people got trapped into this materialistic type culture and stuff like that. And they're going to have to go through a learning experience, because that's what this is like a big school, a show, your own Truman show for you to come here and learn things. And a lot of people, if they're really tied to a lot of like the materialistic items, they're probably going to lose them, and that's going to be a learning experience for them. Yeah, so I've been getting ready for this for years. I've been preparing for this moment that's coming for years, like about a decade, really, both in the financial and also in the spiritual sort of angle on things. And that's what I really recommend everyone else tries to do as well.
Well, most of my audience are definitely on the spiritual side of things, and everything you just said is exactly what we've been doing.
Awesome.
Sorry?
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I don't know your audience very well.
No, that's why I called it Adventures in a Cosmic Suit, because originally it was called Adventures in a Meat Suit, because I read somewhere that we're ghosts in meat suits, and it made me laugh. And then and it became cosmic, because the more COVID went on, the more cosmic it became. No, I'm really pleased to hear that, because my girlfriend said to me before I came on, this is great. Is he spiritual? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. And it's great to hear all of that, Jeff. The question I want to ask you is that I know people watching this, there'll be some of them going, well, it's all right for you having a big ranch and your blue roof and everything else, but I'm on benefits. What am I going to do? I mean, like, what's my mum? For me, I studied economics for 5 years, and nobody ever mentioned the fractional reserve banking system in that whole time. Mm-hmm. And I realized it was bullshit in the last year of my degree. I think I did 4 hours lectures in the last year of my degree, and it didn't make any difference to the result whatsoever. And all the university lectures 35 years ago were all Marxists and just reading off printouts on there. They didn't give a shit. And when I first realized about the fractional reserve system, I was angry initially. And I have touched upon money in this podcast, but I don't focus on it because it is a spiritual journey, but there is a pragmatic side to this. And I love, you embody all of that brilliantly. Now, I do want to talk about the Tesma plasma bath, and I do want to talk about a lot of other things in more depth, but I want to ask you a question on behalf of the viewers who are sitting there who are now terrified after what you've just said. Because some of them are going to be like, well, this is terrifying. And I describe myself as an apocalyptimist.
Yeah.
So
me too.
For me, it's it is a spiritual experience, and it is for us as individuals. And meditation, I did a video about this morning, just go to 0 point and then you get everything you need. But there are still people, I'm trying to hold people's hands. This is why I set up a healing center, because it's a hand over the bridge. Right. And it's just to help them, because as you said, I came to the same conclusion that if you do take care of yourself and in every way, you do get a better connection and you do make better decisions, and you realize, I mean, it's like one big fucking ayahuasca journey at the moment, isn't it? It's nuts.
Yeah, I've said that a few times. This whole last 5 years since the COVID seems like a crazy DMT trip.
It is. That's exactly what it is. But for those people that are terrified after hearing the prognosis, what can they do on a practical level? Because we've run a crypto course on this podcast to help people. We've taught 80-year-old grandmothers just with a mobile phone how to just get some and not be silly with it as a kind of sensible thing to do. For me, it's been pragmatic. If you can get some gold and silver, if you can get some crypto, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't leverage yourself. Don't take risks that you can't afford to lose. But that just sort of makes sense. Prep, yes, as much as you can, but it sounds, I know my mum might watch this and go, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do, Jeff?
Yeah, no, I get it. It is hard. And I do the same. I'm just trying to help people hold their hands through all this. I would say if you're watching this and what I just said terrified you, that's something you need to look at yourself about, because there's literally nothing that anyone can say, anything that would terrify me, because I know what this all is. I'm very connected. And so I would suggest you do that work, because if you've done the work, the self work, and especially the shadow work, you will realize that there's never anything to fear whatsoever. So if anything I said terrified anyone, you need to do that work. That's the only thing you should be focused on. Forget about everything else. Forget about investments, what's going to happen to your pension, all this sort of stuff. Your pension's going to disappear, just so you know. But you can get prepared for it by actually doing that work. And if you do that work, you won't be anywhere near as scared as it happens, and you'll actually be in a position to be very clear-headed and guided by source, because you'll be very open to the signals and the intuitions you get. You'll probably go on to do something unbelievably great. In many ways, a lot of these things that a lot of people have tied themselves into their entire lives, which, being on benefits and their pensions and all that. In a lot of ways, those are very negative. They tend to actually just make people just not really do much and actually just sit there and wait for their check and stuff like that. So it's actually, in a way, a good thing. A lot of these things are going away. It actually will help people to move on from being stuck inside this current matrix that they think is real, which isn't really real. And there's going to be so many opportunities and things like that as this happens, and people are going to have to go through it. This, basically, I call this the apocalypse, the lifting of the veil, which just means that people, just like yourself, just like myself, over the last few decades, have started to actually open their eyes and realize what's actually real and what's actually happening here. And that's what everyone's going to have to go through that. And if you haven't gone through it at all to this point, it's going to be pretty tough. Like even my journey, I started off with things like ayahuasca and iboga, which cracked me out of my mental sort of being in a box mentally. Then I went and I did a lot of hypnotherapy, which was really helpful to get out a lot of my traumas and a lot of my programs. Then I started to meditate, and I've been meditating for about 10 years now, at least 6, 7, 8 years, sometimes up to 5 hours a day. Like I do a lot. I did probably an hour or two today in my plasma bath again, stuff like that. And all those things have led me basically outside of the matrix. And that's what I think a lot of people, they're going to be forced to wake up to what's happening soon. And you can make it as easy on yourself or as hard on yourself as you want. And the easiest way is to actually just start doing that work. It's actually the only thing to do, in my opinion. Now that I've done a lot of the work, when I look at, what else should I have done or what else should I be doing? Nothing. Once you do the work, everything changes, and you can actually manifest whatever you want after that. And like, there's like, forget everything. Like, so if you're worried about your job right now, don't be. You're going to lose it almost for sure. Everything's going to collapse, but that's actually maybe a good thing for you, because maybe then you'll go sit by the river and start meditating, and after a few months, maybe a few years, you'll be this incredible new person who can do anything, be completely abundant in whatever way. It'll all just come to you, that sort of a thing. So there's nothing to be terrified of. But if what I've said is kind of terrifying to you, that's a sign to yourself that you aren't ready yet, and you should start getting ready, because the more that you get ahead of this and start doing the work now, the easier it'll be.
Beautifully put. Yeah. So by the sounds of that, you are optimistic. Well, you are optimistic about the eventual outcome. What are you seeing? We're after the mess, as if it's not messy enough already, but after the mess, it is a kind of 5D, different dimension. What have you got in your head?
Well, I would just say that everything is always absolutely perfect. It's always been perfect. It always will be perfect. It always is perfect. Actually, time doesn't even exist. But if you think about it in terms of time, it's always perfect. It will never not be perfect. It might seem hard, and yes, bad things can happen inside this matrix. But that is actually for your learning experience. It's actually all part of this, what I call a 3D video game that is so incredible. So there's nothing to worry about ever. As far as what's going to happen in the world, I don't know exactly at all. There's so many ways this could all go. But I would say that in general, what's been happening, especially since the COVIDs, has begun a lot of people to start to wake up. They're slowly waking up. They're still pretty new into all these sort of things. But I think that COVID's really woke up millions of people. They started to realize it's like, hey, wait a second, the government and the mainstream media and the doctors, they're all just like lying to us and trying to kill us, basically. And it's like, yeah, it is. And so, they're having that sort of awakening period, which is the apocalypse, the lifting of the veil. A lot of these systems in the world, like to me, when I look at the world, it looks like it's just a mess. So many people are so lost. So many people have lost their connection to source. They're living mostly materialistically and in fear of things like death or fear of losing their money and all these sort of things. Most people are trapped in things that they don't enjoy. Most people are working jobs they don't even enjoy, just so that they can pay their rent, just so that they can pay their taxes, which is another obviously massive scam. So when a lot of this collapses, I think it's the best thing actually for humanity. I think this is going to be awesome, but a lot of people might not make it through it because they won't be able to handle it. And so that's why I'm saying what I'm saying right now is if you start doing the work now, you can probably get to the point where you can at least handle it and get through it. And once we get through this collapse, and I think this is like a spiritual level collapse, we could move on actually to a world that no one will even believe. And actually, I do follow a person named Christoph Melchizedek who is incredibly incredible. And he says there's going to be a bifurcation between now, this year, 2025, and 2032. And if you do the work, you'll go on to this incredible world. It's going to be like a Christic world. It's going to be so amazing. Currency is actually going to be how connected you are to source and stuff. I know it sounds crazy, but that's what he thinks. And I actually think that is a possibility as well. And then he says the other people who don't do the work and they get trapped into that, they're going to go on their own timeline, which is going to be this smart cities, injections, enslavement, and basically horrible stuff. And that's going to be what they're going to have to learn. They're going to have to learn through that. So that's what he says. I don't know. I definitely can't say for sure that's going to happen or not. But I can kind of see where this is all going. And I can kind of see that we can kind of create our own reality in what we do. And so that's why I say the only thing to do, there's nothing else to do. There's absolutely nothing else to do but do that work because that's what's going to affect and change everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in the middle of, I want to ask you just a personal question, really. Like, I mean, when COVID hit, I knew it was coming. And when it actually hit, I was like, oh, it's finally here. I was like, in a way relieved, and another way like, whoa, I mean, the energy of it was unbelievable. You must have felt the same. I'm just asking you out of personal interest. What was it like for you when that kicked off?
I'm trying to think back because it feels so long ago now, but it's funny. It's only been like 5 years, but it seems like a lifetime. And actually, I say everything now is pre and post COVID. Like when I think about anything, I'm like, when I put it into a box, it's like, well, was it before or after the COVID? Because everything changed after that. So back then, actually, I was still drinking alcohol. I was meditating, but I was drinking alcohol and that sort of stuff. And I remember when it first hit, I was actually kind of angry, and the reason I was angry is actually pretty funny because it's something so small. But it was right in the middle of the. I like hockey. I'm from Canada, and it was right in the middle of the NHL season, and they canceled the games, and that made me like angry. And so I actually was like, I have to expose because I knew kind of what it was. I knew within days that it was not what they said it was. It was not a virus, and it was not killing lots of people. And I found out, over weeks and months, all the evidence of that. This was a complete operation. And then I pretty quickly caught on that I could see where it was headed and I knew this because I had watched what they did with the HIV/AIDS, which is also an operation. That was not what they said it was. And what they did was they used random number generators. They'd get everyone to go to their doctor, the guy in the butcher coat, take a random number generator, and sometimes it would say, oh, you've got it, you've got the HIV. And then they'd start crying. They'd start to believe they've got it, which would actually make themselves sick. That's how powerful your mind is. And then they'd give them some drugs from Dr. Fauci, who was doing that one as well, and the drugs would kill them. And then they'd go, oh, look, the AIDS, it's so bad, everyone's dying. It was the drugs, just like it's the vaccine with the COVID. So I saw that as well. But you know what actually happened is it's kind of funny because I was still kind of like not where I am today. So I was drinking. I was still traveling a lot to a lot of conferences and stuff. And of course, when I traveled, I'd end up drinking a lot and I'd fall out of my meditative practice and all that kind of stuff. And the COVID's actually ended all that. And I didn't even have hockey to watch. So I ended up, so it was actually one of the most best things that ever happened for me personally. I was like, well, there's no hockey to watch. I don't have to go to any conferences. Everything's shut down. And I just ended up getting more deeper into my self work. I started meditating even more. I started focusing more on my self work. And that's actually led me to, so many amazing things since then. So at the beginning, I was a little angry because the hockey was stopping. and that too also showed me something. So I learned from that. I was like, wait a sec. Why am I so angry that like the hockey stopped? And I was like, I had to look at that. I had to go meditate. What's going on there? And it's like, you're like addicted to it. It's like, and like I grew up on skates in Canada. That's all we had nothing else in Canada. It was so cold all winter. The only thing we had was hockey. And I was of course from a place called Edmonton, which actually had one of the best hockey teams of all time. That's where Wayne Gretzky and all those guys played. And I'd go watch them all the time. And I didn't realize that because you rarely do when you're addicted to something. But I was addicted to hockey. So I actually had to learn how to get over that addiction. I started to realize I had all kinds of other addictions, including the alcohol, and started to work my way through all that stuff. So in many ways, the COVID stuff actually was one of the best things that ever happened to me personally, which is kind of interesting because for most people, it was one of the worst things that ever happened.
Well, this is funny because I went and did a speaking tour in America in 2022, back when they still you had to be vaccinated, you had to have evidence and all of this. So I got a load of fake papers and I was queuing up to get into America in Dublin because they have the desk before you get on the plane. And everybody was being pulled off and interrogated, everybody. And I was stood there with all these fake papers going, what the fuck is going to happen and I just got this, oh, you're going to be fine. And I got there and I just hit the papers down on the table. And the guy looked at me and he just looked at me after looking at the paper, didn't look at them, just saw the pile, looked at me in the eye and went, do you have any tobacco on you? I went, yeah, I've got some fags in the bag. And he went, welcome to America. I was like, what? I was walking in, looking over my shoulder going, what the fuck? And then I got on stage in America and I said, this is the first thing I said. I said, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. And I was expecting tomatoes. And nothing happened. And I got cheers. And I was like, oh, this is good. There are people that get this because we can see who everybody is. Nearly. I say nearly because there's going to be there are questions around. Or one of the questions I wrote down here is, who are they? You've said they a few times, and I think that's a big question that people are arguing about all the time. Who's the good guys? Who are the bad guys? What's really going on? What does Jeff Berwick think about that question? Who are they?
Well, I should say that there is no they, there is no you. We are all one. We're having this experience. We're all in the mind of God. But inside this current experience, which I just call the matrix, which is basically what it is, because actually this matrix actually, according to Christoph Melchizedek, has been taken over by non-human entities for a long time. So when I first started looking into all this, like probably when I started the Dollar Vigilante, I used to say the big problem in the world is the central banks, because I had identified that. And of course, as an anarcho-capitalist anarchist, I was like, well, it's basically the governments and the central banks. That's the big problem. I learned over the years that is not even close to the biggest problem. In fact, actually, the biggest enemy that all of us have is our own mind. It is what causes any and all of our problems. And that's why you have to do the work so you can get control of the mind so you can actually create the realities you want. But that said, in this world, it is pretty crazy. And I went down the rabbit hole of the Jews, for example, especially after that false flag attack that Israel did on itself in 2 years ago. And it was very obvious. It's clear. If anyone has eyes to see or ears to hear, that was not what they said it was. So they actually attacked themselves is what actually happened to do this genocide in Palestine, to take over all that land, which actually Donald Trump fully supports and all that kind of stuff. so I started looking into that. I was like, holy cow, yeah, there's something definitely there. There's people who call themselves Jews, which actually most of them are from Khazaria, which is another empire, which I discovered. And I look into that, and then you start to realize that these people are in some sort of like satanic pedophilic death cult. And that's actually partly from this area called Khazaria, I think. And that's the people who are mostly have control of most of the major things in this world. And that means the governments, the media, the central banks, all these sort of things. So I started to realize that, and then as I was, learning more, I met people like Christoph Melchizedek. He was basically saying that it's actually a non-human entity that actually feeds off of human suffering, that's trying to keep itself alive because it's actually lost connection to source, and it actually uses these people to create all this horrors on Earth. So when it comes to who's they, at the end of it, there is no they. This is all an experience. But in this current experience, in what I call the Matrix, which it basically is because it's been created by this non-human entity, those are the things that seem to be causing most of these problems. But they actually live off of our own fear, depression. They live off of all our negative energy. So if everyone were to do the work and actually realize what I kind of realize, they would actually go away almost instantly because they'd actually lose all of their source of energy that they need to survive. So again, there's not really anything to fight. It's actually all within you. The actual thing to do is do the work yourself to become realized or actualized inside this body, which means to become completely, have your oversoul completely in your body, be completely connected to source. And if everyone does that, or even if anyone does that, it changes everything. And so there's actually nothing outside of you to battle. Your biggest enemy is basically your own mind, and your own mind's creating most of these problems. And if you figure that out and you get your mind under control and get connected to source, then you'll realize there's absolutely nothing to be worried about, and there actually won't be anything to be worried about because people are mostly creating this with their own minds.
You just reminded me of the story. My mind must be pretty good because back in 1987, I was in Canada, and I went up in a Cessna 152 with an F-16 pilot's daughter, and she flew me over Vancouver Island and then did a steep turn looking down on this big mansion house. And over the intercom, she said, "You see that house?" I went, "Yeah." She goes, "That's the headquarters of the Satanists." I went, "I'm sorry?" She said, "I spent the next 2 weeks in Canada looking around, going to think everybody's a Satanist." And it's been like that ever since, really. What do you think to Three Eye Atlas, Jeff?
I don't know anything about it. I mostly am just meditating. I'm watching things like the crypto market and stuff. I'm looking at all these psychological operations like the Charlie Kirk operation and all that. That was insane. None of that was what they said it was. Just like 9/11, just like the moon landing, just like all the wars, all that kind of stuff. I've had a few people sort of mention it to me. What do you think of this 3i Atlas or whatever? I actually haven't even looked at it. I guess to me, if it's something real, it will come to my attention at some point. That's usually what happens with me. Because it hasn't come to my attention yet, then it doesn't really seem to be in sort of resonance with myself. So I actually don't know anything.
And we've got a bad signal. We're creating a bad signal.
Talk about the aliens. That was interesting.
Well, we're creating it all, so there must be a reason for that. Yeah,
I guess I'm not supposed to talk about the aliens at this point.
Well, that's the funny thing. I kind of briefly. It's too interesting not to look at, and it actually popped up for me last night in a dream, and that's how I get my guidance and from myself, presumably. But yeah, it was very interesting because I saw it personally. I mean, it's just like a movie, isn't it? It's just a Matrix movie.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is either, but it's interesting.
It's the best. This is the best 3D video game ever created. Like, I'm giving it 5 stars as soon as I can, as soon as I'm done this portion of the game. I couldn't have imagined that, growing up in the 1970s in Canada, barely getting to know my great grandma, wishing I did later, watching the hockey, getting all into the hockey, then discovering the world's run by satanic pedophiles, and trying to figure out how that all works, and eventually leading myself to doing the work to connect back to source. It's so incredible. Now they might be sending in the aliens. This is the best. Like, if you're not loving this apocalypse at this point, I don't know, you're playing it wrong.
I was actually saying the same thing yesterday, almost exactly the same thing yesterday. It's been great talking to you. We've got about 10 minutes. So I wanted to go into the Tesla plasma buff, because I know somebody came to our town in the west of Ireland the other day, and they said they got one of your machines, or one of these machines. And I was obviously interested because I've got 2 Tesla Violet Ray machines, and I love, this is another aspect of this whole thing that I've loved, is like digging into stuff, like old stuff as well, and the Tesla stuff. Tell us about the Tesla plasma buff.
Yeah, so because you've got some of the Violet Ray machines, which I presume is from Nikola Tesla's original designs, like 100 years ago. Those are like amazing. They're super, like, compared to what I have, it's like super weak, and it can only run for like 10 minutes and stuff. But essentially what happened is, a year and a half ago, a person came to Anarchapulco, and he said, I've got basically an incredible new invention that it basically generates plasma, just like Nikola Tesla used to do. And I didn't know anything about this stuff, but I'm into all these sort of things. I've got a hyperbaric chamber in my house. I've got a cold plunge pool. I've got a sauna. I've got a steam room.
Yeah. We've got all of them.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah.
We've got all of them. Yeah,
it's the best. I do it all every day.
Yeah,
I just got out of all that stuff.
Yeah, I do it a lot, but not every day. But
yeah, every day, 5 hours a day, I do that stuff. I love it. I'm basically meditating the whole time. It's incredible.
And we opened up a private members association where we could offer it to people for free if they couldn't afford it, and it's just amazing. All of that stuff that you just mentioned, we got all of it. So that's why I'm interested in the Tesla device, because I haven't actually experienced this.
Yeah, so he brought it to me, and I had already been doing all this other stuff, so I was like physically quite good already, like no problems at all. So he said, well, try it, for 10 minutes, and I did, and I didn't really feel too much, and I didn't have anything that was hurting or anything. So I was like, well, okay. I kind of noticed I slept a bit better after that, and I had a bit more energy maybe, but just 10 minutes on it. But I'm into all this stuff, and I was like, well, I'll buy it off you, and I'll just play around with it, because I'm into all this stuff like you are. And actually, I think the first thing I did was I had my dog, Bruce Lee. One of his eyes, he was about 12 years old at the time. One of his eyes was completely white. He's getting older, and obviously was blind in that eye. And I put the Tesla machine on him for 3 minutes. And the next day, his eye was like getting back brown again. So a couple days later, I put it on again for about 3 minutes, and then a couple days later, his eye was back to normal. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I had a maid who was just about to quit. We've had her for like 15 years. She's part of the family. She's like always at our table, at any event, at our weddings, everything. Like, she's just part of the family, but she's also our maid. Like, that's just how it is. And she was about to quit, and she was crying. She was like, I don't want to leave you guys. Like, this is basically like we're all family, but my back is so bad, I can't work anymore. And I had just gotten this Tesla machine. So I said, well, let me put these things on your back for like 15 minutes and let's just see what happens. So I did. And a couple of days later, I look out the window, and she had my, like, at the time, 1-year-old son on her shoulders. And I go, where's she going? And someone said, oh, she's been walking all day. She's been like walking for miles with like your son on her back and stuff. And I asked her, I go, how's your back? She's like, it's back to, it's fine. It's like all that pain went away and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then I tried it on my wife's aunt. Same back problem, gone in one session. Then I just kept trying with people. And then I was like, well, this thing obviously is doing something, and something incredible. And the guy who gave it to me said, yeah, just use it like 20, 30 minutes a day. You won't believe the energy you have. So I did. So I started using it every day. And I started to notice very quickly, within a week or two, I'm like, whoa, it's like I'm like 18 again or something. And it really is. I actually ended up doing a biofeedback machine a year after I got the machine. And it said my metabolic age is 30 years old. I'm currently almost 55 years old, just FYI. And it said the energy in my cells, my energy level in my cells was the same as a 10-year-old. And I can totally feel it. Like since I've had the Tesla machine, I can go from, and I have, because I have a 2-year-old now, I go from like 5 in the morning going for walks with him in the mountains, and I can go to like midnight working without even thinking of being tired. It's just nonstop. I can travel. I've traveled for like months recently, nonstop, no problem. I've just got incredible energy. So, and along the way, I've tried so many times. So many people have come to me with like health problems, and I've cured basically everything that anyone's ever come to me with. And one lady was about to die. She had taken numerous vaccines, and she couldn't breathe. She couldn't walk. We did 2 sessions with her, and she was back to normal. So as this all happened, I started telling people about it. I'm like, this is amazing. And I've been actually helping them to, make it so that they can build these things for more people. Because it was just a couple of guys here in Mexico who knew a crazy mad scientist who had discovered how to do it. So over that last year and a half, they've actually been building it out. And now over 1,000 people have the Tesla machine. And they have this Telegram chat in the Tesla Club. And almost every day, someone's like, I just cured someone of cancer. I just cured this. I just cured someone of multiple sclerosis. It's incredible. So yeah, it's the most, we've talked about things like Bitcoin, how I got into Bitcoin at like $3 and all that kind of stuff. None of that compares at all compared to the Tesla machine, in my opinion. This is the most incredible, what I call rediscovery of our lifetimes, because of course, Nikola Tesla had already also rediscovered it, because I think he was just rediscovering it. Because I think a lot of those old structures that we still see in Europe with massive spirals and stuff, I think, I don't know, I can't prove this, but I think that was probably plasma sort of aggregators. Yeah. So you would go into that area, it might be called a church or whatever, and you would get healed, and you'd also get more connected to source, because that's also what it does. It's like life force energy is coming into you. It's incredible.
Totally incredible. Totally agree. You should go to Belfast one day. It's mind-blowing, the Tartarian stuff there. Mind-blowing. Nobody ever talks about Belfast. It's like
I didn't even know. Yeah.
Yeah. Stunning. Beyond belief stunning. And then hidden with all these horrible buildings. It's just and landing on Tesla's stuff is like picking up one of the best things in the game, isn't it? It's like, oh wow. It's like the ultimate life source.
Yeah, like for me personally, I kind of look at it as like I've been doing all this work, and as I do, these amazing things have been coming into my life, and I can kind of consider it like power-ups in the video game. So once you reach a certain level, all this, because you know what actually happened? I was thinking about this well after I had the Tesla machine. About a year and a half ago, I was starting to get really good with meditation and even manifesting things. And so I was kind of playing around, like, what should I manifest? And I remember I actually thought, well, let's try to manifest something that basically seems impossible, because if I can manifest that, then I'm clearly can manifest, right? And so I forgot all about this until like a year and a half later, but I actually said, okay, I'm going to try to manifest that I become younger, and like noticeably younger, like I'm 25 years old again, like everything just returns to that level, which doesn't seem possible, right? From what we know about in general, how humans generally age and stuff like that. And I forgot all about it. And then I was doing that biofeedback machine after I got the Tesla, and I had it for about a year, and all of my ages had gone way down. And it was soon after that I was thinking about it. I'm like, holy cow, I forgot. That's what I was trying to manifest, and it actually happened. It was incredible.
That's brilliant. And last question, because we're nearly at the end of the hour, and thank you so much for doing this chat. I really enjoyed it. Anarchapulco. Anarchapulco is still happening. Tell people about that, because I think I told you in a message, I was supposed to come to that 2 or 3 times, but I got stopped by a spouse.
Yeah, that can happen. We're going on our 12th year coming up, and we're actually moving. The first 11 years we're actually in Acapulco, Mexico, and we decided to move it for our 12th year. So we're going to move it to Puerto Vallarta, which is a lot easier for people to get to. think there's even like a direct from London to Puerto Vallarta, but there's no direct flights to Acapulco. So we moved it there. It's coming up February 16th to the 20th. It's going to be incredible. Christoph Melchizedek's going to be there, I think, and I haven't told anyone this yet. So you're getting actually the first time anyone's ever heard this. I think he's going to be doing an iboga ceremony at Anarchapulco. Yeah, so that's going to be pretty amazing. So we've got all kinds of people like that who come to these events and speak at it, and also just people who attend the event. It actually started off as like a anarcho-capitalist event. So it was about basically freedom and how the government and central banks are bad and stuff like that. But we've actually moved on dramatically. It's become much more of like almost a spiritual level event now, with a lot of people like that coming there. It's an incredible week. Hopefully you can make it this coming year. It's going to be incredible. We're also going to have the Tesla machines there. I'm going to have a few, basically my own machines. I've got a bunch of them now. I bought a bunch. Well, like once you know how incredible it is, you just want more. I actually have one just for a bath. So I actually put the bulbs. It's actually all set up. I could show it to you if I had something here, but I've got like these stands and the bulbs go into the water and it's all perfectly set up. So I actually do the Tesla machine before that. And then I go in the Tesla bath and I meditate in it. So I'm going to bring a few of my Tesla machines to Anarchapulco. So if anyone wants to try it, I should also mention, because we didn't mention it, that if anyone's interested in that, it's at tesla.club, but it's spelled TZLA.club. What you do is you go to their website and you put in your email and you'll get a brochure, and then you'll get a questionnaire. And if you fill out that questionnaire and you're accepted for a potential entry into the club, then you'll go into this Telegram chat for a few weeks so you can learn all about it. So for anyone interested in that, and I highly recommend it. It's the most amazing thing. It's like the most amazing, miraculous thing that's entered into my life in the last couple of years, and it's been so incredible. And yeah, we're going to be at Anarchapulco. There's going to be so many incredible speakers. Max Egan's going to be there. We haven't actually announced any of the speakers yet, but it's going to be incredible. So I highly recommend that as well.
Yeah, I'm just showing everybody TeslaClub.club.
Yeah, so people know it actually is made to look like it's not much. So what it is you join a private club and then you get a free science experiment. So that actually gets around all the tariffs and everything because it's free. And then it also doesn't look all that like it looks like it's a toolbox. They actually put it in a toolbox. And the reason is because this technology is actually, this could change the world so massively. It would get rid of all the big pharma. Most doctors and nurses would be completely unnecessary. They're actually unnecessary now if you know how all this stuff works. But people would just be healing themselves just with this machine. So they pretty much don't want this stuff to get out there. That's why you never hear about it. So it's actually made in such a way that it can get by the customs, and it's just like a science experiment and all this sort of stuff. It's pretty ingenious how they did it. Yeah, so it's incredible. Like I highly recommend it. And it's even more than just the machine. Like once you're in the club, there's incredible people in the club. They've all gravitated to it. A lot of like healers who know about like things like hypnotherapy, things like herbs, things like, what cures certain things. So it's actually like a health club that you get a lifetime membership in, and then you get a machine as well. So you're basically healing and curing anything that you and your family have. And if you have any problems, you've got people there to consult with you. It's actually really incredible.
It is incredible. And I have looked at it and I do want one. But I got fed up with this whole, do you know how many people I've met who said, oh, I'm setting up a healing center because the RV's coming next week. The RV's coming there. And we've been hearing that for decades, right? And then other people going, I'm waiting for the med beds. And I'm like, we've got everything. We've got everything now. That's why we set it up with the red light therapy and the hyperbaric oxygen, sauna, steam, cold plunge, PEMF as well, magnets, all this stuff. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting one of them or trying one of them out. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Jeff. Thank you so much for spending an hour with me and my audience. We really appreciate it. And I'll put your links below this video and I'll get it up. You guys, wherever you're watching this, Substack, I've been banned on YouTube again, so it probably won't be there. And we did talk about the COVID, so we'll probably keep it off there. But Rumble, Substack, Twitter, etc. Thank you, Jeff Berwick.
Thank you, Mark. Peace and love.
Yeah, take care. Have a great day. See you guys.